practice live stream. I've never done one before. And so I wanted to mostly talk about, oh, um, like art and woke stuff because as I've been getting more into the art world, the broader scope of things, not just making collages on my phone and whatever. Um, I have found some interesting comments. So basically, I want to talk about this because someone said to me, oh, because I posted today on Twitter. I said, I want to find a graphic design gig. And I was like, are there any, businesses that are looking for a post woke, anti woke, non woke graphic designer, a specialty for that? And then someone suggested I just make my own thing. And I'm like, of course, I have to make my own business. Like, I don't want to do that. But I probably will. And then someone said, that's a pretty broad statement that the arts are captured. They're like, do you have any proof of this? And what type of art are you talking about? And I said, well, for example, the universities are completely captured. All the art classes on the universities, the studios, the art programs. As someone who came from a liberal arts, college, and was in the art school, the arts are completely captured. And that's art education, that's community art, that's studio art, and that's digital art. Every type of art discipline is required to have liberal arts curricula in there as well. So they're getting the DEI stuff in there too. And then the university campuses are completely woke. So for starters, that's a pretty huge deal when I'm talking about the art world being captured, because more and more people more and more women are going to college, getting degrees, and it's the standard, even for art, to try and have a well-rounded liberal arts, degree. So in the past, also traditionally, we would have apprenticeships, and people would be in the trades for the arts. And so the fact that art education is captured is a major thing. And then, of course, like I said, art education, art teachers, K through 12 schools are also very, very woke. They're very indoctrinated. I'm not saying every single school district is, but any school district in a major city is. And it's being pushed by, overall, like state legislators, the Department of Education is pushing DEI. So all of the arts, and this again is someone who has worked as an art teacher in various capacities, going into after school clubs and summer camps and community centers and non-for-profit art centers, and in the K through 12 public schools. They are completely woke. It's basically the art teachers that are also running the sexuality clubs, the sexuality and gender clubs. Okay, so already right there, education, K through 12 and college and higher education is captured by woke. Okay, and then we look to the media. Any major network besides maybe Fox, is completely captured. All of the graphic design, again, that comes from the art schools, the design programs that make all the graphics. We have this whole thing in the art world, about the flat design problems. Flat design being the kind of corporate, typical design we see where it's based in, again, DEI. It's making human figures very vague. There's very little shadow or depth or line or texture that would point to race, to sex, to any other characteristic. It's like a silhouette of a person, and they're all different colors of the rainbow for inclusivity. And then we see these vague, a completely androgynous male female characters, androgynous characters in all of the corporate media ads. So that's captured the design. And then if we look at other forms of art, not just the visual arts, right? Music, dance, theater. You're really going to say that Hollywood isn't woke? That Hollywood, the film industry, isn't woke? We're really going to say that the theater industry, like, traditional theater, which is going out of fashion anyway, but like musicals, all of these things, dance, music, that all of it isn't woke? I mean, yeah, maybe there's obviously a million independent artists that we've never heard of. And maybe they're doing something, but pretty much everywhere you look, there is woke in all of these different areas. Television shows, movies, anything with a big budget. Disney, which owns so much. Even fucking Star Wars is woke. Like, this person was very offended that I suggested and said, I didn't suggest it, I declared it, that the arts are captured by woke. And so is there a market for a anti-woke, non-woke, basically a freedom of expression, freedom of speech artist who, someone like me, right? I have to make this business now, which is, it's not anti-woke in the sense where it's like some Reddit dude, who's just making like really cringe, red pill memes or something. I mean, like I've been trained, I've been can't really want to say this. I've been academically trained. But so I know the policies, I know what they're looking for and many different aesthetics, but I also know about free speech and I value free expression and I value, supporting, content creators or businesses or, different institutions which are promoting free speech. And so I think it's very interesting to consider, being an artist. Now we have so many possibilities for freelance work. Like maybe kind of, I already have sort of been, adding to my brand as kind of being based in truth and free speech and all that. So why not try to offer, graphic design services? I mean, it'd be great if I could do, YouTube video related graphics, thumbnails, promotional stuff, social media stuff, posters for events, flyers, any of that type of thing. And so when someone comes to me, they know like, okay, Laura, I might not agree with all their opinions or care about what they're doing, right? But they'll know that if they come to me, that I will support their right to express, different viewpoints, maybe things that are considered controversial that other artists wouldn't want to make those graphics, something like that, where they know that I'm not going to be judging them for that. I think that could be, some kind of market, because the only, the only artists that I know of are the feminist artists who are basically being canceled. And this person very obnoxiously is trying to say that it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous statement to say that the arts are ideologically woke. It's like, why are the only, artists that are critical of wokeness all being canceled, right? I was just in a feminist art show in San Francisco, which, right, that sounds like it would be extremely woke, right? But it wasn't. It was a nasty piece of work, The Art of Dissident Feminists. Okay, and all of us in there were feminists that were canceled by different platforms. We were deplatformed, or we were deboosted, or we were censored, or we were denied business or applications or work, or businesses were shut down. For mine, my Etsy store was censored. My feminist items were censored. So I've moved off of Etsy. And that show literally got protested. There was Trantifa fucking tagged the outside of our building. Getting to motion graphics, someone says. motion, see that I hear you. There's definitely, middle of the road work that you can do. Well, commercials, I mean, it depends on the commercial, because there's, again, the more corporate it is, the more they're looking for a very specific aesthetic. But I'll be honest, I have no interest in motion graphics. It's not something I care about. So someone else can take that opportunity to snatch that up, because it's not my passion. But that is a decent suggestion. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the art show was tagged by Trans Antifa, and it said, "No turfs on our turf." Someone said nothing political about scrubbing bubbles and shit like that. Yes, that can be true. If someone wants to do like I don't know anything about like commercials. I don't know, like a L'Oreal ad or something. Like, you can just, do some video editing, for like Dove or some soap. But the thing is that a lot of these companies, like maybe the smaller ones wouldn't have the budget to care, but the larger companies, if you're openly critical, it can be harder to find work. If the personal art you do or the writing you do is critical of some of the DEI stuff, like these larger companies, like, they wouldn't like that. They wouldn't want to work with someone who has been critical of things that they've done or companies like them have done. So that's something else that makes things a challenge. Because can you even get work in the first place? So I was just saying, all the artists in this show have, been canceled. They have been canceled online and in real life. They've been, some, like one woman who's a dancer, she started a dance company, and she said something critical about transgenderism, and she was somehow kicked out of her own dance company. She was forced out, even though she was the founder of the company. And then shortly after, the company tanked. So that was kind of funny. But, it's like, once you have a dissenting opinion in one of these industries and that gets around that you are a TERF, that you're gender critical, that you're a so-called bigot or whatever it is, it can then be harder to find work, especially the more high profile you are. I mean, the documentary No Way Back, The Reality of Gender Affirming Care, that I'm in, that producer has jumped through hoops for like 2 years now to be anonymous, because she works in LA, she works in Hollywood, and she's a well-respected filmmaker and part of that network. But she wasn't able to rely on any of her network connections in the industry and had to fund it all privately because she was gender critical and she wouldn't be allowed. So someone said, yes, Public Square leads for companies that aren't woke. Yes, that's something that I've learned about in the last like couple months since my Etsy canceling, and I have been looking into them, and it seems very promising. It's not a huge network, but Public Square has a variety of services. I mean, they have some, certain values that they want you to agree to, basically free speech, patriotism, and family values, which is, it's vague and just whatever. But overall, I agree with, their sort of sentiments. But you can look for different non-woke companies in your area, all sorts of different services. So I'm definitely going to be, promoting my services on there. And I guess I was already planning to, but after kind of reflecting today, I'm like, you know what? Why not kind of specify that not only am I obviously, funk god and I have this certain brand, and I'm a detransitioner offering my speaking services, and Q&As and things, but I should specifically also brand myself as someone who is going to, uphold free speech, as a graphic artist that, has that specific quality. So I'm hoping that'll be promising, because otherwise, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do when I move to New Mexico, because I'm moving to Albuquerque for a lot of different reasons. But part of the reason is because it's a very, artistic, very creative. I mean, it's like completely, it's fertile. It just has such a sort of like spiritual, beautiful energy. And so much inspiration. And I'm not going to go into like, why that inspiration, but yeah, there's a lot of psychedelics there. But I'm just saying, Santa Fe is there. And I really love to get into that market, and actually submit my work more to galleries and to exhibitions, and maybe do some arts booths and stuff. And I really wonder how I'm going to be perceived, because again, I mean, I can definitely frame my resume in a certain way if I say I was in this feminist art exhibition in San Francisco and I do psychoeducational speaking about gender and healing, and it's like it would trick them into thinking that I'm woke, right? And I don't want to do that, because I'm not trying to lie to anyone. I'm obviously extremely upfront. You can just Google me. But I would like to think that there's enough common ground, within, again, the fact that I care so much about healing from trauma, that I care so much about the arts and music and nature and community, and that I have these values. Like, I'm wondering how much overlap is there going to be, or am I going to be completely ousted and blacklisted from everything because I'm gender critical? I don't know, because I haven't tried to get involved in the local art scene here in Milwaukee, because I knew I was going to move. Also, I've been procrastinating socializing because, yeah, I have my reasons. But I think that's going to be really fascinating, because, I mean, why should I have to be ashamed that I have medical trauma? Why should I have to be ashamed that I want to advocate for women and for girls and for the mentally ill and for the autistic and for gays and lesbians and for better quality care for gender dysphoric people? And why should I have to hide that I have conservative opinions? You know? Because I have a lot of different opinions. I have a lot of different opinions. I don't know how many conservatives listen to nasty ass saxophone funk music. I don't know. I would hope I could find some. But it's just such a fucking weird position to be in, as someone who is formally so progressive and it looks a certain way. Again, that's why I want to move to New Mexico. I'm a hippie. I'm a very down to earth, spiritual person. I literally I'm gonna try to lead a drum circle, a healing drum circle, and yet I'm worried that I'll be canceled or not allowed, or worse. I mean, I don't know what could happen, because I'm trying not to be employed by anyone specifically except myself, and I'm pretty based to have as a boss. But I don't know, the gender stuff just makes people have brain worms and go insane. And there's always Trantifa. I don't know how much Trantifa hangs out in the desert of New Mexico, but they definitely were in San Francisco graffitiing up our show. And then, get this, it's illegal. You can get a fine. So we were like, why... we should leave that up on the walls. It could be part of the art exhibition, because it's literally people trying to censor us, which is the point of the show, is censored artists. But we had to take it down. We had to wipe off the graffiti from Trantifa, because you can get a fine from the city. And it's like that. It's just so crazy. So unfortunately we couldn't leave that up, but there are photos of it. So I don't know. But that's just something, I get that person saying you can't make a sweeping generalization that the entire arts are captured. And I never said the entire arts are captured, but it's enough of a generalization to know, I graduated from the University of Wisconsin Milwaukee like a year and a half ago. I was just in the art program. I was just in the community arts program with all the art education students, and I didn't feel comfortable to share my opinions often because they were so emotionally volatile. And these are supposed to be my peers. These are supposed to be like my people, right? We're all artists. We care about kids. We're quirky. We all have depression. Whatever. We're Gen Z, And I didn't feel like I belonged there. So, so I do think the arts are captured, but as artists, we all artists, the myth of artists not being in it for the money. It's like, no, a good artists are creative, and creative people have high openness traits, and they tend to be more entrepreneurial. So they tend to be, enterprising, and there's I'd be interested to see how many, like, if there was a poll of artists, like, how many are pro-capitalist and how many are communist. I have a feeling most of the artists would be capitalists. But it's very in fashion nowadays for young liberal arts and, college students to be, just into communism. It's like it seems cool, I guess. And I almost got there myself, so I get it. So someone says the South is pretty different. I'm an artist, went to Pratt from New York City and had to move to the Deep South. It's a different planet. Yes. Now, I would never deny that the Deep South can be based. But yeah, New York City to the Deep South, I imagine that is very, very distinct. So, but the thing is, like, how many, like, huge art markets are there in the Deep South? Again, not everyone has to be doing huge, things, or by huge, people have different interests of what they want to do, with their shows or whatever. But it's like, if you try to get into any, again, like what I said, in San Francisco, are there that many conservative, the biggest art markets in the world, and Santa Fe is one of them. So I wonder, I wonder, how that's gonna be. I might end up moving to the deep. You never know, but I guess what I'm saying is, generally, and the truth is, even in the South, even in those K through 12 schools and those campuses, the indoctrination is still happening. Like, just because you're in the South or you're even in a conservative state, or area, that doesn't mean that there still won't be those DEI policies coming in. And so you still have to watch out. But so that was one thing I wanted to talk about. I don't even remember what the other... Do you guys have any other comments or questions about this topic? Otherwise, I'm going to try to remember what the other topic was that I was going to talk about. Because I don't remember. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about kind of the evolution of then the... This relates because it's the evolution of the creative impulse for fashion, for aesthetic appearances. Because I have just started wearing dresses, and I know I feel like a trans woman, or, you know what I mean? Because, like, to most people, it's not that big of a deal. And it's, I never hear that many women being like, oh, I just started wearing dresses, and, like, it's a thing. Maybe, like, in middle school, that's what they do. When I was in middle school, I was depressed as fuck, like, writing a novel about wolves, writing 2 novels about wolves. And I was like, why the fuck would I wear makeup? So, for me, it is a big deal. And I guess it is a little funny to say, like, I'm almost 27. I'm just like, oh, you know what? Like, this dress is cute. This pattern is nice. This is a new dress. Because all my dresses are new. But But I think it's a fascinating thing to think about because, for many of us, being autistic or having trauma or being non-conforming as kids, we don't have typical developmental paths. I literally have a diagnosis called pervasive developmental disorder, which is whatever that means. I guess it means that I'm like, okay, I guess I feel comfortable now, like being on my own terms, I will now wear a dress. And I'm now fine with it. I can now handle the sensory experience of wearing something other than a cotton t-shirt and shorts, And so I think it's like I'm very happy to be able to have basically more avenues of creative expression because I can obviously still wear, the things I used to wear. I could still wear men's clothes if I wanted to. I could wear more, just simple, cotton shirts and shorts if I wanted to. Or I could wear more elaborate outfits if I wanted to. And it doesn't have to be one way or the other. And so I've come to now enjoy, kind of exploring. It's exciting to kind of try on new looks, and the more comfortable you feel with your body and the more stable your sense of self is. It's like you can handle looking at yourself in different outfits and still feeling like you know yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the past, I had a very insecure sense of self, and I was obviously very detached from my body, maybe even somewhat dissociated from my body. But now I can look at myself in different, makeup or, because it affects your appearance to wear. I'm not wearing anything right now, but it affects your appearance to change your hairstyle or to put on makeup or change your eyeline. It does affect it. And so I think in the past, if you struggle to have a stable sense of self, which is, that's a problem with you when you have trauma, or with autism, everything needs to be the same because it's just overwhelming to consider the possibilities of things that are different or that change or are variable. So now I can look at myself and be like, I'm still Laura, whether I'm, wearing makeup or not. I'm still Laura, whether I slightly change my appearance or whether I, do whatever. Here, no questions, just wishing you all the best going forward. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hello from Minnesota. Hope you're well. Well, hello. We're not that far away, are we? I'm still in Wisconsin for now. And someone says, what if I donate $500? I mean, I wouldn't complain. I would not complain. Yeah, I do appreciate donations, in earnest. I'm really, I've been thinking about this today. I really do want to try and, pivot, to a more, self-sustained, business model just with the work that I do. Is so controversial. Again, it is hard to find work. So I've been thinking, I really just want to keep focusing on the detransition activism. And obviously that doesn't exactly pay. So I'm still thinking of different ways that I can sort of fund that endeavor. So obviously donations are very appreciated. Whether it's $500, I don't think that I'll be getting $500 from this individual, but I do appreciate anything. And I have some really cool stuff coming up. I think that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. I have, I'm excited because next month I'm going to Washington, D.C. to the American Academy of Pediatrics conference. So the American Academy of Pediatrics is one of the major institutions that, has been trying to regulate or research or, kind of set standards and disseminate information, about transition, especially about childhood transition. And so we've had some interesting kind of back and forth, different articles, different, opinions or misinformation that's come out about, detransition and things like that. And obviously they just want to ignore us. But there's currently a legal investigation happening with the Academy. And they're trying to stretch this investigation out as far as possible so that they can keep doing it. But basically, there's going to be a huge internal review of the quality of their research in regards to the transition of minors and to their protocols with dealing with gender dysphoric patients, and seeing are these outcomes, valid? Is this quality research? Because other institutions like the Tavistock Clinic in the UK and the NHS over in the UK, they have started putting some boundaries in and saying, wait a second, like we need more research. And so the American Academy of Pediatrics is ignoring this information. And so there is going to be a review of them, but yet they keep ignoring us. They keep ignoring detransitioners. Yeah, thank God, yeah. But the problem is that, this is probably going to take years, 2 to 3 plus years. And so in the meantime, they're still doing all of the same stuff. They haven't put any safeguards in place. So think about that, like another 2 to 3 plus years of a generation of kids that are going to be permanently harmed from receiving improper medical care that's not based in, evidence-based care. So we're going there, me and a couple other detransitioners. We have a really good lineup. I don't want to spoil it, but a great group of detransitioners. We're going there. We're going to have a booth at their conference. Their conference is from October 20th to the 23rd. So it's a pretty long conference. We're going to try to be there every single day, having a booth set up. I think Chloe did one last year, but it was probably much smaller. Obviously, this year there's a lot of heat on them, and a lot has happened, in it that year. So it should be really interesting to see how that goes. And then it's also exciting because I don't know if I should share too much about it, but there's going to be a pretty major documentary that's going to be made. And they were trying to get in touch with me, when are you available? I was like, can you just come to DC? Because I know for sure I'll be available then. I won't be sleeping those days. So I invited them to come and film the events. And it sounds like they're going to. So it'll be really interesting because not only will we go there and have our own documentation, but it will be professionally documented, professionally recorded, and then possibly shown. So I don't know how that's going to affect, on their end, their behavior. Because, we don't know how the hotel staff are going to treat us. I don't know. Do you guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that the hotel that the American Academy of Pediatrics conference is going to be held at is going to be as based as the Hilton Hotel in San Francisco? The base manager, Chad, who got punched in the face by Trantifa but was still totally cool with us. I don't know. Let me know. I have a feeling it won't be because we need more Chads in the world. He was so based. Someone says, is Walsh doing a sequel to What is a Woman about detransitioners? So that is not the project. I would absolutely love if he would do a documentary. I would love to be in it. I would love to be involved in that. I really think What is a Woman was incredibly successful. And I really like the Daily Wire. I've interviewed on there and written some stuff for them. So, but currently, I don't know. He did have Scott Nugent in the documentary, who technically isn't a detransitioner, but she is a transition regretter and a whistleblower for, at the top surgery, the bottom surgery, all of it. And I think he was very impressed with her, and a lot of the audience was very touched by her story. So I think if there can be another documentary from Daily Wire made about detransitioners, and we see some of the younger people, some of the minors, and get even more perspectives, I mean, I would love to see that. But this one is going to be, it is still by a big org. Um, I would stay in a different hotel under assumed name. So I don't think we're actually going to stay in the same hotel as the conference. We're going to be in a hotel nearby, but we don't know how the hotel staff are going to treat us when we're in the conference. And also, I mean, who knows? It's DC. I've never been to DC. So like that's pretty exciting to me. But like I really don't know how it's gonna go. I was basically told that we might have to be careful. We might be kicked out. We might have to regroup and maybe, you know, protest outside or try to just come up with another solution. So that's what I've been told by the organizers. Question: do you agree that the casting of a girl who transitioned at 13 is now butchered as an adult, as a boy character in the One Piece series is promoting transition to girls? I'm not familiar with that. I actually don't watch anime. That is something controversial about me. I'm just not a fan, except for Yu-Gi-Oh. I do like Yu-Gi-Oh. Um, I mean, anime has a lot of really inappropriate material. And anime is, as we all know, is a huge influence to confusing kids about fem. There's the femboys and kind of the butch girls, and it gets confused, and it is very sexualized. But I definitely think promoting cosmetic surgery in that way. Um, oh, Julia, always there to fact check me. No, you're right. What I meant to say is that the conference itself isn't in the hotel, but the participants are mostly going to be staying in, the same hotel. So we are not going to stay in the same hotel as, other participants. To my knowledge, I could be wrong. I don't even remember. There was Train Tifa shit going on. But yeah, no, it's going to be big. And it's across, several days. But to my knowledge, we were going to try to stay away from, maybe some of our opponents. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. But back to the other question. I mean, if you're promoting cosmetic surgery to minors and then showing a girl transitioning to a boy, I mean, imagine being a kid and watching that. Like you're just, it's being completely normalized, and this is something that was really only for adults. If we think about where this all started, which I often think people need to consider, what were transsexuals really like? How did this even come about that this is now such a phenomena? Transsexuals originally were adults. They did, require long-term extensive care and ruling out comorbidities. They had differential diagnoses. It was not promoted for children. And so now this is a new phenomenon of showing this in the media. I definitely think that I think that's a problem, but I haven't seen the whole clips. And then someone says there's a lot of anti-woke people who think it doesn't matter, and I think they don't get it. Yeah, I've definitely encountered that. Like, it's definitely not only the left or Trantifa or, these kind of extremists or trans activists that criticize detransitioners. There's a lot of criticism from, I like to think of them as just kind of trolls, like red pill trolls, that now they have this moralistic superiority over the left, but they're really still just as psychopathic or bullying as they would have been on whatever beliefs they had. So there's definitely like I get pretty cruel memes and cruel comments from a lot of people who are anti woke, but they don't distinguish between someone like me and basically as they call a libtard. They'll say to me and other detransitioners, well, you deserved it for being a libtard, and now live with yourself, you ugly freak. Or they're just straight up homophobes that are really ignorant about what's going on. They're just like, well, God made you a man or a woman, and they made you be straight. And so if you choose to be gay, like they think gay and medical mutilation and the cult are like the same thing. So yes, there are absolutely. There's just a lot of assholes that will just pick on vulnerable people for whatever issue it is, and that doesn't exclude anti woke people. And anti woke people often will focus on bigger issues. Like they'll attack the AGPs, they'll attack the men that are in women's sports because they're getting the huge news headlines. Even still within the conservative movement or independents or libertarians or even gender criticals, even in gender critical feminist circles, the detrans stuff is still kind of underground and still kind of taboo. I think maybe because it's so dark, people don't want to go there, or they do still have that hatred towards, the ex trans. They think of us as former trans. They think of us as the same as like what you'd see on libs of TikTok. So I think it's complicated. So I do really appreciate people that are just willing to hear us out. Because the people on the left will say that now we're all being used by the right and we're all right wing grifters, but then ignorant people on the right will say that we're like sinful sadists or anti-God or anti-Jesus or whatever because we committed the sin of like having our boobs cut off or whatever. So it's a lot of nonsense. Let me see here. Her parents took her to nightclubs as a kid. She has a history of self-harm. In the show, she plays a boy, and then there's no discussion of trans, but I think casting her is still a statement. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, so it was a casting choice, not like a character in the show, their storyline. No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, again, so here's my acting opinion. I think that it's a role, I think it's a fantasy. And I think that, anyone should be able to play any character. I also think that it's up to artistic discretion. And just like with any artistic choice, it works or it doesn't. And people might have different opinions on that if it worked or not. So in terms of like a girl playing a boy or a boy playing a girl, I don't really care about that. But yes, in this case, it's not just an acting role. It is, it's a girl that has had, parts of her body removed. She was sold a lie. She was sold an illusion. And now she's living this lie, still as a minor. And now she's playing this male character. And someone says, I feel like it's casting an anorexic girl as the prettiest girl on the show. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it is, yes, it's very similar to that. Because, it is unhealthy. And I think maybe the difference is that there's almost no one that can look at an anorexic girl and think that that's healthy. Like, I think that's still pretty taboo. But if you had an obese girl in a show, no one can criticize that. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lie. You're saying, oh, this girl is masculine. She's even more masculine because she was so deeply masculine inside that she had to get cosmetic surgery to pretend to be more masculine. Are we having fun yet? That's very cryptic. I mean, I'm having fun. I'm dog sitting at a stranger's house. So, and I think they're remodeling their house, so the home is very plain. But there is a golden retriever puppy downstairs who's very sweet. Um, but yeah, existentially, are we having fun? What do you guys What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Because I mean, it's weird, but I have to think. Oh, yeah, where is the dog? He's in his crate. I'm upstairs, and I don't think they want. He's a puppy. He's still having accidents and things like that. So I don't think they want him upstairs. I did post a video of him earlier on Twitter if you want to see that. But yeah, he's very cute. But yeah, I don't think it's good to bring him up here. I don't know. When people talk about the surreality of the current time, obviously it is surreal, but partly I can only go off of what other older people are saying or telling me is their experience. And older people do tell me, who didn't grow up in the digital age and when there was more analog reality, how that was different. And I just have to take their word for it because this is all I know. I mean, I grew up in an analog childhood, but I was a kid, so I can't really fathom what it was then like for adults at that time versus now. But older people always tell me, that people just weren't so harsh to each other. There was a lot more kind of self-sufficiency within the community. People didn't, I guess it wasn't so individualistic, and they didn't outsource every problem to each individual niche. It was more like, we have a community member, like a wise community member that can kind of help support us in different ways, or we relied on our family. Someone says, I don't equate the two, but I do think that the trend to other sexual orientations is largely a social contagion too. I've seen people change in a snap after a bad breakup or friend and partner influence. Well, I definitely think that sexuality is pretty damn complicated. And I think a lot of people they hold on to a label, whether it's a traditional label of straight or gay, or if it's many of these new labels, which are just a subset of straight or gay. They want that stability, but then in reality, the reality of, intimacy and the attachment and the emotion and the practicality of living with someone or money or whatever it is, maybe they don't know themselves as well as they'd like to think. So, I really can't say. I definitely think there are social contagions when it comes to sexuality. Because now teen reality, it's teens need to can contemplate their identity. They take on different roles. Now the media and like curriculum or even like HR departments and stuff are almost like adopting a teenage view of the world where everything needs to be fluid, even though it's not healthy in adult stages of development. So yeah, I'm not going to disagree there. I think I think sex is still extremely complicated. I really don't think we've made that much progress in understanding it. I don't know if we ever will. There are masculine women and feminine men. The world is full of different people. I really have a difficult time believing people are born in the wrong body. I mean, I don't think you're alone there, my friend. The thing is that the whole born in the wrong body line, I don't think it was ever truly meant to be taken literally, because when it was originally used, the transsexuals were using it more as a metaphor. They were saying like, my personality, my temperament, my interests, they lean more towards the opposite sex, what's typical of the opposite sex. Or a lot of them were homosexual, so We have a lesbian who has maybe more masculine typical interests, or she wants to wear, she relates more to the masculine aesthetic, and she is attracted to women. She might say, oh, I feel like I'm born in the wrong body. It's not literal. Like, there wasn't this, medical code diagnostic of quote unquote gender dysphoria as it like a condition. It was a metaphor for saying, I feel like I don't fit in with my sex, and life is hard because of that. And I feel like it would be easier in many ways if I was born the opposite sex, especially for homosexuals. Hey, Davin. Reliving before the digital age, it felt more free, less stress, slower pace of life, fun, and most importantly, more person to person contact with friends and family. Yeah, man, I mean, that sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? Here, as I'm sitting alone in this white room, on the phone like this, I think do you really think there was less stress? Let me know you guys' opinions on this. Do you think there was less stress before the digital age? And also, why do you think that there was less stress? Because he says that, there was a slower pace of life and there was more community, which is definitely gonna decrease stress. Just getting oxytocin from being around people will decrease stress. And having less dopamine hits and getting addicted to that short-term gratification will cause less stress. But I want to know what you guys think about that. Because when I was growing up in the analog age, I didn't have that much stress because I was a child. So, I am glad that I had that brain development, while I could. Because then my brain development got pretty jacked up once the smartphones came around. Yeah, so why do you guys think there was less stress? Like, is there anything in particular that you think is like the direct cause of the stress today? Because, a lot of people will talk about the political stress, too. Obviously, I can't remember that. The time that I grew up in, I remember when Obama was happening. Just when he was happening. He's still happening. But when he was running and campaigning the first time, I was in, like, 6th grade. And then there was 9/11, which I can't remember. By the way, that's what they say separates millennial and Gen Z. They say you're a millennial if you can remember 9/11, and you're Gen Z if you cannot. So I don't know if that's true, but I can't remember 9/11. I would have been 4 or 5. So, yeah, they say there's less political stress. I think maybe it's because people were a little more civil to each other, that people were more private. So it's like maybe there were rumors and tabloids and things that were speaking about, rumors or different things about politicians. But, generally people, they had more of a business, like a more professional relationship with each other in politics. And so those things were maybe said more behind closed doors, or there wasn't, this constant, really what it is. It's a parasocial, a widespread global parasocial national relationship that we have with so many different people. Like, we're not meant to have these many relationships, and they're all parasocial. Like, we all have such an intense parasocial relationship to Donald Trump and Joe Biden and all of these other people. It's so odd. So they say less stress. Look, it took longer to get information and news. There is kind of that thing, like, ignorance is bliss, which I don't relate to. I don't relate to that sentiment, but yeah, I think it could be being connected and digitally available to employers invades your private time. That's a really huge consideration. Because you're pretty much just expected to be available, and you can't just like you in the past, I suppose you could just leave the office. I mean, maybe there was still email, but people didn't use it as much, or like a fax or something. But it's like once you left the office or your job site, you'd go home and then that was it. Now it's like you're still, even if you can put boundaries up and, um, not answer emails during certain hours or whatever, you're still getting those notifications. And even if you turn those notifications off, you still know you're getting notifications. It's like the anxiety that there's always something else. There's always another message. There's always another video. There's always another problem to solve. And because our brains are meant to solve problems, that's what we do. Um, it's completely addicting. And now it's just a way of life. I mean, I don't know that many. I mean, there's people who, okay, I don't really know if I believe these people, but there's people who say that they take like cleansing breaks. They're like, I'm not going to use the internet for a month. I'm not going to use social media. I'm like, I don't know if I buy it. Now, maybe that's just me. Um, let's see. People used to keep politics out of conversations. Now it's in every caveat of life. People see others through labels now. Politics have moved to the left in rather dramatic fashion. Biden agreed that marriage is between man and woman and wanted a barrier on the south border in 2006. Yeah. So, I mean, if you guys had to say, when do you think was the shift in the craziness or the level of stress increasing or the political, because it didn't all just happen at one time, but was there a specific year that or event that you think triggered this? Because I feel like maybe an argument could be made for Obama's election, just because then race and identity became such a enormous conversation. And then also that when Hillary was running too, the identity politics thing, like a white woman versus a black man, and then obviously the Black Lives Matter stuff then had the opportunity to be exploited. And then was that during his first or second term that he legalized gay marriage? Because then obviously that became, that's never gone away since then. But I don't know. For me, it was, when I got a smartphone at 15. And then I've just been so online, since then. I've been making videos since I was like 14. And I wish I still had some of those videos. Early 2000s and really in 2010. Yeah, I mean, that's what I have to wonder. How much did 9/11 impact? Because I imagine that the tech sector was blowing up, with the surveillance and the debate around, being monitored and your activity being monitored and your calls and that type of thing. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I guess I'll take a second to plug my stuff. I'm very happy about getting monetized on YouTube for now. Hopefully stay up that way. Because I can put my products on here. So if you're interested, when you have, the Patriot Act. Yeah, the Patriot Act, and just the broader conversation. Yeah. Yeah, the movement, like a lot of people always ask me why, why did this happen? And to my knowledge, it's just because the organizations that, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think that's what happened to a lot of these LGBT organizations and campaigns and nonprofits, that they started out as very grassroots organizations that were trying to, just help the community. And then once the community was helped in many ways, they wanted to keep going. They felt empowered to do so, and they had the money coming in, and they wanted to keep having the money coming in. And that's when they switched their attention from gays and lesbians to trans and queer. And then, of course, as more acceptance has started to happen, now, average citizens feel, manipulated into accepting things that their intuition says they should not trust, such as how we have predatory men, fetishistic men in positions of power in these organizations, and then rising to other, political power and different things. So they're being swayed by the very predatory people, and then kind of the lower downs, um, they're just happy to go along with it because they still think they're doing grassroots efforts. But it's connected to, I'm not an expert on all of the different, I haven't like memorized the whole thread of connections, but you can look to like Martine Rothblatt, who is a major proponent of transhumanism, and he has majorly funded LGBT organizations. And so if you follow the money in the tech sector, it links back to the current agenda of these organizations. So that's a big factor. I think it's more about power and recruiting than money. It's kind of a coin toss, right? Like, is it power? Is it money? I definitely think that when it comes to the pharmaceutical aspect of it, clearly money. But then it's like these surgeons and these professionals, they have a power trip and their ego boost and a savior complex when they're helping these poor, marginalized groups that they're inventing. Someone says good morning. Good morning. For me, I think it's like 1 a.m. So for me, it's like I'm wide awake. I have LGB family members that have nothing to do with the rest of the alphabet mob. They will not take part in any pride activities. I legit remember when the rainbow was just a rainbow. And then when June was just a month. I know, right? I know. Like, first of all, June is such a great month. It's just such a great month. But then the rainbow, I always say, like, as funk god, as an artist and a funkadelic hippie, like, I just want to have the rainbow back, and you could just wear a rainbow and people weren't thinking about your sexuality. You could just wear colors and people weren't trying to interpret, like, what flag it was or whatever. I don't know if we can go back to that because obviously I really don't want to be. Again, I don't know what people think of me as I walk down the street or whatever, if they assume I'm liberal or conservative. I don't know. But like if I don't want to be, I don't want to signal, I don't want to falsely signal, being queer, and it's like, how can you even avoid it? Because anything can be projected as queer. Even like my portrait of my scars and everything, that could be misread. It has already been misread as pro trans or whatever. And these people are just fucking stupid. But I still say, take the risk, wear the rainbows. I'm not saying like the flag, but just rainbows, wear colors. Just do it because we fucking need to reclaim that shit. Wish I tuned in sooner. Just wanted to say I love your art. You've spurred me on to create more. Well, that's That's very sweet. And I'm really glad because I believe me, I know what it's like to, just be in bad funks and for months or years at a time, just not be releasing that creative energy or not utilizing your intellectual energy, or sharing yourself with others, or making sense of it through art. So it's great. I'm really glad to hear that, because the more creativity you use, the more inspiration you have. Which, by the way, is why sometimes people will come up to me and they'll be like, "Oh, I want to do art, but like I don't really know where to start because I don't have any skills." And so I always tell them, like, maybe this is a controversial opinion, but I always say, like, you could start with doing some AI art, like Midjourney, or there's ones that are free, because if nothing else, it helps with art block. Because if I'm feeling really low energy, or I'm in a flashback, or I'm just sitting there, I don't have like painting tools or whatever. I can go into Midjourney, and just start experimenting, and I can get some of that creative juice out. It's not a replacement for any other mediums of art, because it uses different motor skills and everything. But I always say, if you are in a slump, try some AI art, because you might get inspired, and the more inspired you get, the more creativity will be generated, maybe to work on then other projects that you have been procrastinating. Um, Autobots need to reclaim trans, because when I start to type Transformers, the dumb flag emoji comes up. Ugh. Did you guys see in the Transformers cartoon that came out like within the last couple years, that clip where, like, I don't know if it was literally fucking Optimus Prime or who it was talking to a girl and a child, and the child was like, "Oh, I'm non-binary," and like the Optimus Prime or whatever was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Like, dude, for real, you should look up this clip. It's so funny and really disturbing. Um, yeah, I guess Optimus Prime isn't based. I don't know. I think he sold out. Um, but yeah. Um, oof. I just thought, there's a lot. How are you guys doing? Um, I'm gonna do more live streams, cause it's my vibe. Um, but oh, paintings are like music. When released, it becomes part of others' lives and their interpretation. Hard for the artist to control. I mean, pretty much any form of art, even just this video, or a comment. Um, but I mean, that's, I think, why a lot of artists don't release a lot of their work, um, because it doesn't then fully belong to them. Um, I mean, I always kind of like, I'm a capitalist, so I'm like, you can think of the art however way you want. If you want to buy it and think of it in your way, that's your business. Like, whatever. And I'll still think of it as, and a lot of like abstract art that I do, I'm just like, this had a certain vibe to me, or like I'll remember usually the emotional pain that I was in at the time. And it's like, that's not anyone's business. Like, what do they care? Um, I do performance and tried to make something about not wearing makeup and was told I couldn't, as that was transphobic. What? Not wearing makeup is transphobic? Ah, man, we've gotten so far from like 1991 level, like fashion and different things, like just the freedom. Recent Transformers cartoons and comics have been super woke. Comics retconned it all, so girl Transformers are trans. Yeah, and again, and this goes back to what I was saying about the arts being captured, because um, they're indoctrinated in the schools or in these online cultures, if they're uh, you know, self-teaching or whatever, or on YouTube tutorials, and then they get hired, in these shows and in the media and the commercials and as journalists, and all these people then start injecting this woke crap into the children's media. It's like, how old are those people that are, getting these jobs? And the people, and also this is another thing I've heard. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this too. Like, when younger college students who are woke and indoctrinated go into a workplace, they then start to be authoritarian and force, the older people to try and conform, because they basically think anyone older than them is out of touch, or they don't know as much, and so they won't listen to, the other staff, and then the older staff feel threatened, and then the older staff then will conform to what the younger woke indoctrinated staff want. And I think if you were to examine this would be a commonplace thing in these places where some of these woke TV shows are being produced. I wanted to submit something to your D-Trans zine publication, but I'm not active enough on X or willing to pay to message you. Do you have an email address? Well, so it's a D-Trans anthology book. That's a collection of different detransitioners' stories, either public or anonymous. I'm aiming for about 30 submissions. It depends on how long it is at the end when I count up the words. How long have you had a Twitter? Because with new accounts, sometimes they will limit your features. I think you do have to pay. I don't know. Do you have to pay now to DM a blue check account? If you're not verified? Because they've been changing it a lot lately. But yeah, you can email me. I'm looking for, it's only for detransitioners, so it's only for people who have medicalized and then regretted it. There aren't any desister stories in this book. That'll be for a future anthology. But if you're a detransitioner and you've medicalized and then regretted it, or identify with the detransition term, you can email me. Let me see. I should be able to post in the chat, right? I don't even know. Well, it's Laura Becker Official at gmail.com. And it should also be in my Twitter links, and it should also be in my YouTube profile. But yeah, just email me. It's great to have. You can DM someone who isn't verified if that person selects the option to allow it. Oh, I've selected to allow it because I think that's bullshit. But yeah, when it's off, it's the default option. So to my knowledge, it should be on. Maybe I should double check just that it hasn't gone off. Because I should be allowed to. I get messages all the time from random people. So yeah, just email me, Laura Becker Official at gmail.com. Yeah, so you can still message people, but I guess they're just making it harder. Yeah, I don't know. I've been enjoying some of the new features, but the thing that I really am upset about is the Twitter circle. The Twitter circle function just isn't working anymore. Dude, I used to rely so heavily on that because it's now I have no option but just trauma dump in public. I could not do it, but that's not going to happen. So I don't know why the Twitter circle isn't working. Yeah, I don't know why that isn't working for you. But I like the monetization, and there's been fewer bots lately. And I haven't been censored in a long time. Like, my tweets haven't been flagged. But there's definitely some shitty features. Like, again, the Twitter circle is not working. And like, people who aren't verified, like, I have really limited features. And again, like, I am a capitalist. I get why he's trying to do these different things. But if you're gonna make people pay, at least have all the shit work correctly. And yeah, the name sucks. I'm definitely not an Elon bro. I'm not a tech bro. I did like the bird. It was very neutral. But I am liking the monetization, and I'm trying to see how that goes, because I think they're paying out like every 2 weeks now. I think. So I don't know. There's so much graphic porn that isn't taken down. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll see porn. Anytime I see porn, I'll report it as sensitive content. Because, like, it's just, like, I just don't want to see porn. Like, first of all, I'm, like, scrolling this in public, But then also, here's the thing. You will get penalized in the algorithm if you post sensitive content. If it gets flagged as sensitive content, your post will be shown up less and you might get ghost banned. So, I guess that's one way to curb the thing. Yeah, because Tumblr has a feature where you can, like, they're really strict about blocking the not safe for work content on there. And YouTube, too, is pretty good about that. Yeah, it's, I'm waiting for when he's going to introduce the dating feature myself. Oh, dude, I should, this really funny thing happened today. So there's this, so not the huge documentary that's going to come out, a small independent filmmaker is also working on another documentary that I'm going to be in. And in my interview, he asked me, what are your goals for the future? And of course I told him, like, I just want to meet my based husband and have a family, my usual shtick. And then, he sent me a draft of the film today, and I kind of skimmed through it to see my parts and whatever. And then after the end credits, he had a clip of me just saying, like, yeah, I'm just looking for, and I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. So I told him, why don't you just put my email at the end? Like, and I said, man, like, nah, I have so many people claiming to be now trying to help me find my based husband, and praying for me. And God, do I need the help, you guys. But yeah, so there might be a documentary with me literally saying at the end, hey, I'm trying to, have a family and whatever. So that was pretty awesome. A good light tone. Yeah. I feel like there's another documentary. I don't know. I get a lot of random emails. I know there's at least two. I swear to God, there's another one, though, that I did. Yeah, no, yeah, I did submit another clip to a small independent one. I mean, I just watched the Channel 7 in the Australian show. And actually, right as I was watching that documentary, one of the detransitioners from that film emailed me about being in my book. So it's like a very small world. But I thought that film was really good. And there's some really raw stuff in there. Like, you can tell the different detransitioners, there's the ones that have healed more and the ones that haven't healed as much, and now they're also being public, and again, that's why I was private for like a year and a half on Twitter and not putting myself out there as much. And I was afraid to do the big like Fox, and I could have testified in Florida, but I was afraid because I was like, I'm just dealing with so much trauma. But now I'm perfectly fine to be a right wing shill, but I'm just waiting for the right wing shill money to come in, because like fucking begging out here. Let's see. Do you think to think about whether we are perceived as woke or non woke when we present ourselves, like commie style self censorship? Man, that's such a good point. Like woke or non woke. But the thing is, woke and non woke can mean many different belief systems. Because just because I have one non woke belief, that doesn't mean I'll share like every single one. Um, but it's kind of, I guess what it comes down to is like, are you for big government, or are you for small government? Right? Like, are you for big government, censoring what we say and really regulating a lot, and inserting like moralistic opinions in there? And are we for the censorship of free speech for quote unquote the greater good? That's to me what wokeness really means. Or if you're anti woke, you would be for smaller government, fewer regulations, and more free speech and less, moralizing, policies. I feel like that's a pretty decent definition. How many currently trans people do you think are likely to detransition? Oof. There are so many right now. Sorry, there are so many right now. Um, I mean, as the millennials and Gen Z start to outpopulate, the older generations, I think we'll see. We'll see. I'll be around for it. I'm only 26. There's a hell of a lot of man-made horrors beyond my comprehension to go through. Um, but yeah, there's a lot right now that are identifying as trans, and again, we don't really have proper research on this. But there's just kind of an anecdotal observation, that it takes, women. What is it like female to males, that will take like 2 to 4 5 years before they regret or detransition, and it will take male to females longer, like 7 9 years. But there's a lot of young people that are gonna wake up like this is a fad. Lots of teens that are gonna be like, oh wow, before they're even 18, they're gonna detransition. I think the older people, like the people who commit to it when they're like, over 25, I think those people are gonna probably feel a really strong investment, a sunk cost fallacy in there. And it's harder to change that. It depends on a lot of different factors, like if you're in a relationship or you have children, or it's hard to just come out of your social circle and admit you made a mistake or whatever. There's going to be more detransition rates. It's hard to know because a lot of people transition privately and then they detransition privately, or they transition publicly but then they just quietly. It's like going back in the closet. And I don't want to try to compare. I'm more so saying it as a joke, but also it is a form of, you're suppressing your reality, because you do get marginalized, from that socially. I think James Lindsay gives the best definition of woke as critical consciousness. He's talked a lot about woke. I'm sure his definitions are very dense. to me, that's how I perceive it in a practical sense, that how it manifests is, do you want this or that? But if you look at it as a philosophical um, belief system, it is, that postmodernist deconstruction. Like, are you for criticizing what is and deconstructing, in a moralizing sense? But again, usually involves some form of control of others. Or are you not? I'm currently struggling with my 17-year-old daughter saying she's trans and adamant about wanting to get on testosterone. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I know that's a very that's a difficult age, because as I'm sure the reality is that once they get to 18, it can be a lot harder. But I still think there is hope, because she's going to be on your insurance, most likely. So there are some financial controls that you can do. You don't have to consent to pay for anything, and you can prevent your insurance from covering it. Yeah, I'm hoping that I have my foot in the door now. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about earlier. I have my foot in the door now to actually speak at my college, my alma mater, university, which I've pretty much, there's been no invites to colleges or anyone, there's just been a no-go for events. But there's a small conservative club on campus that has invited me to speak, and we'll see how they can set that up or pull it off. But now I'm happy because I have my foot in the door to finally speak at a college, and it's going to be my college, which is super awkward. But I would love to speak at more colleges. I would love, it's Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA maybe one of the threads between different colleges, to spread the word out more. And I was recently, I think there's some people are going to try to plan me to speak about detransition at a San Francisco college. I don't remember which one. Or not San Francisco, I'm sorry, California, somewhere in California, State College. So, I think to me that there's hope, because there's still territory that we haven't gone to yet. There's still so many colleges, so many, conferences and different things that people haven't spoken about detransition at yet. So I still think there's hope for the youth, that are currently indoctrinated in this. There's a lot of women in the queer cabaret scene near me who are really quickly medicalized. I'm working on building an affirmative platform. I'll be here for them when and if they detrans in a couple years. Yeah. What's the age bracket of that group? Is that mostly early to mid-20s? Or are these mid-30s millennial women? Not that I can really know exactly how they would differ, but I guess what I think that so the 18 to 25s, I think they're more likely to detransition, because they're going through so many upheavals and they haven't maybe yet established as many, career networks and different solid foundations. So that's promising. The 18 to 25s might detransition. And this is the hard thing, if they don't detransition, because it's not the be-all and end-all, are they going to be super fucked up, before, during, and after? Because once you detransition, that isn't going to heal everything. So it's how do we deal with these people? How do we help them? How do we support them? But also, how do we have boundaries with these people? It's obviously different if it's your own kid or friend or whatever, but if it's colleagues at work, and that's another reason I just don't want to have a typical job, because it's how awkward it is to be around these people that you feel are in a cult that you escaped, and then it's they might assume that just because you're doing art or have done psychedelics or whatever, that that you're also in the cult or the club, you know. It's really awkward. So I mean, I wish you the best of luck in having a good balance of like supporting them, but also having boundaries with them. That if they're not healthy, you know, that is not your position to try and, you know, support them in that way. Um, Young Americans Foundation. Young Americans Foundation, I'm not familiar with them. Um, I mean, you know, I'm willing to pretty much talk to anybody, anyone that will, you know, invite me to speak. I'd be happy to set something up. But I still haven't seen any college talks about detransition from anybody in any group. So maybe we can start doing that more now. Um, the parents who aren't the Munchausen parents need to get support too, but it's hard when they aren't public or seeking help. Um, I mean, I think a lot of them are seeking help in private. Now, luckily, there's been a pretty growing movement of parent orgs. As for those who don't know, I'll just rattle them off. There's Partners for Ethical Care. I highly recommend. They have like very, very healthy and supportive parent support groups and networks. They have resource guides on there for how to deal with schools. They have legal resources on there. So Partners for Ethical Care. There's GenSpect. They have a lot of resources on there. And then there's just been a new book written by 3 therapists. It's called When Kids Say They're Trans, A Guide for Thoughtful Parents. And then there's also the Parents Against Inconvenient Truths About Trans group. They just released their anthology book, which is all parent stories. And this is the same publisher that's doing my detransition anthology book. And so if you're curious about how that's going to go, there's already a book out there that is a similar anthology, but it's for parents dealing with, you know, their stories of trying to help their families. Yes, good boundaries. Yes, good for you. So you're on it. I just like to remind people, because it's like it's so easy to, you know, just have passion about these topics and be like, you know, I have some knowledge. I need to try and talk some sanity into these people. But a lot of times you just can't. Yeah, I should look into what was it? Young Americans Foundation. And I assume that's a conservative group, because it almost sounds like it would be bipartisan, which would be cool. I mean, there's so many young liberals. It'd be so great if we could just like flip the switch and just make them, or like even maybe the men. Like, I wonder if there's a way to get like more. I think it's harder to get the liberal women, but like the young liberal men, I think there's something we could do to like get them to become based. I mean, I think it's hard because, again, I'm obviously generalizing, but you know, young liberal women, they tend to be more. They don't have as good of boundaries. They don't have as good of boundaries. Speaking as a former one of those people, and it's like, why would men, you know, why would young liberal men, you know, go conservative if they have access to this huge group of young liberal women that just want them to say certain things and then they'll hook up with them. All right, I know I'm being very shallow about that, but when it comes to like early 20s, I mean, what can you expect? But yeah, thank you for coming. Yeah, reach out to me anytime. Again, my email is, or you can contact me. I'm out there so much. You can find me very easily to slide into my DMs for whatever reason. And I appreciate if anyone wants to like spread the word about the Detrans Anthology book, because it is still kind of a struggle to get submissions, which I understand. So I try not to pressure people to share their stories. But yeah, I'm definitely still in the market for like 15 more stories, and there can be multiple stories from the same person. They can be anonymous, published stories. They can already have been published so long as you still own the copyright to it. Um, so so yeah. Oh, did she do something with them? I know she's done a lot. I just haven't heard of them before. But yeah, I'll look them up and I'll see if I can find if they did something with her. Um, cause I mean, I mean, going back to my college after all this time, I transitioned and detransitioned while at that school. I was a mess. It was horrible, horrible experience. Um, and so going back there for me will be very healing. It will be a conquering of just a lot of really traumatic stuff. And to speak there and to be empowered and, just be like in my new energy in, full funk god mode, like it'd be very powerful to me. And I think if I can conquer that, I'll go to any other college. Um, so it would be great if anyone, I don't know, if anyone has connections to any schools. I mean, the thing is always like the funding for these things, like travel and flying them out and um, yeah. But if anyone has any ideas, um, yeah, I was actually invited to go to the Turning Point USA upcoming conference, which I think is in December. And they were like, all the major conservatives are going to be there. And they were like, Trump comes every year. I was like, dude, in what world am I like, again, we all have a parasocial relationship to Trump and like all these people like Matt Walsh and all. I'm just like, dude, it's so weird. But you know what I said? I had only one thing on my mind. I said, so do you think Jordan Peterson is going to be there? And they're like, we don't know, but he has come to events in the past. So that's my prerogative. I'm like, I mean, yeah, it is interesting. It's just interesting if nothing else. Like I have, variable opinions on all of these people like Trump and all these different individuals. But but it would still be very interesting to encounter all these people. But yeah, I mean, I definitely would. It would be great to have, just just to have more independent, um, you know, uh, supporters talking about detransition because it's like, I mean, at this point, there is no PR possible for the T-trans movement because it's like, again, we have Charlie Kirk, we have Matt Walsh, we have, we don't have that many people that are going to win over, our opponents, so to speak. The PR is is just so that's why I feel comfortable working with different orgs, different people, and they've all been lovely to me. I mean, that's the thing. Like if they're treating me right, they're doing right by me, they're being honest about what's going on. Like who am I to turn that away? Even if we don't agree on every single thing. Um, Versus these other places don't reach out. They don't, publish my essays. So you have to just think about who, dude, I want to get on Joe Rogan. Like, I mean, I'm a huge, huge comedy fan. Um, and so, like, for me, talking to Joe, just like as him in the entertainment business, as him as a comedian, is like, that to me is even like above anything else. But obviously, I mean, he's Joe Rogan. Like, he's had everybody on. I mean, I would love to be on Joe and I really want to talk to Bill Maher again as like a comedian fan. I have a lot of respect, but also politically, like he's so close. Like Joe is closer to understanding this stuff than Bill Maher is. Um, but I don't think either of it's not a priority to either of them. Like for Jordan, it's a priority for him. Is the medical mutilation for Joe and Bill and some of these other people? It's just not as there's just other issues. There's a million topics, and detransition and stuff is just another topic to them. But I think if they got further and further down the rabbit hole, they would then become obsessed with it, just like all of us have. So, I mean, Bill Maher talked to Riley Gaines the other day, well, like a month ago or whatever. So, like, that's somewhat, but I still don't think that he got it. And then, well, yeah, so he's getting there, but, like, he's going really slow about it. And he hasn't had anyone on, like any of the parents, anyone, So, so yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna keep trying to network with anyone that I can, anyone who's gonna be again treat me well, who's honest, who cares about what's going on, and has integrity about the issue, and just see how far it can go, um, and I think once my lawsuit is, um, like hopefully if that I need to message my lawyers and figure out like what our current situation is, but if that gets going, which I hopefully will very soon, um, I think, um, that'll get people's attention. And maybe there'll be a thing where it's like these 5 detransitioners all have active lawsuits. Let's all talk to them. I mean, that'd be great. I would love that. Oh yeah, Bill is an old stoner. Yes, he he goes life at a slow pace. He doesn't he's not up all night reading Twitter and freaking out. Um I don't like the haikus. Okay, I'll just say it. You guys know how I feel about Jordan. My kitten is named after him, and I don't like the haikus. Okay? I do not like them because Twitter is not meant for that. It's not meant to be read that way. It makes these really long posts. Like I get like once in a while if he was doing that, but like I don't know why he started doing it. And that's the thing. One day it just started, and it just fucking has gone on with no explanation. Like this dude, ugh, I don't even know, man. It's so fucking weird. It's so fucking weird. So yeah, I don't like the haikus. I'll just go out and say it. Um, but he's been so based. Like, dude, he retweeted my self portrait like right away, right away. Um, like, it's just crazy that we're mutuals. I won't get into my like fangirling stuff. But I'm just saying like he's very based. He's a funk fan. So, his daughter might be easier to reach than him. Yeah, I haven't had any interactions with Michaela. Um, I mean, yeah, I think we're all getting weirder as we sink into the surreal age. Do you think this is the surreal age? Cause like there's some talk of like postmodernism, or like meta modernism, which I kind of relate to that. The meta modernism, like basically based modernism. That's like okay, we heed some warnings of the postmodernist movement, but also like fuck the postmodernist movement. That's meta modernism. Uh, but you think this is the surreal age? Because it's like I don't know, man. Like this is what I'm saying. I just need to find a safe and healthy person to be impregnated by, on a long-term basis and have a human in flesh and blood, offspring, like ideally two of them, and before the cyborgs happen, before like there's so many microplastics in my body or whatever that I can't reproduce and need to use an artificial womb. So this is what I'm saying, like, you guys need to get on this, like, matchmaking's business, because if I have to have a cyborg child, that's just not going to be. I just don't think it's not going to be as based. It's not going to be as based. Um. Oh yeah, who's talking about the long posts? Well, yeah, but I'm saying like they don't need to be the way way he writes them. They should just be like one sentence all the way across. Um, but then he just like it's just awkward when he retweets photos and stuff. Um, but I mean, I'll forgive him. I'll find it in my heart to forgive him. Um, but okay, so when I was at this Women's Declaration International conference, this was really cool. Um, Mary Lou Singleton, she's a very based like birthing. I don't know what her title is, but she does like fertility, like based fertility, home birth stuff for women. And she gave this whole really kind of depressing lecture about, the bioethics of the artificial wombs and like the ways that they do in vitro fertilization and like all of these things. It was a bit disturbing. She actually lives in Albuquerque, so like we'll probably be doing a lot of crazy shit together. But like that, don't are you guys freaked out about that? I mean, I know like you guys like have already had kids for the most part, but it does worry me. Like, obviously, I want to homeschool and like, you know, so I don't know if my kid will be going to class with a robot child or whatever, but it's still like it's freaky, like, because you watch sci-fi stuff and it all just seems just like fantasy. It's like seeing a dragon or a fairy or whatever. But it's actually like no, where we have God knows what technology that's being pushed to try and create, wombs and males and just being. And I remember like a couple years ago hearing like Alex Jones, I think he was on Joe Rogan, and Alex Jones was like, "Oh, I'm pro human," and I'm just like who isn't pro human, But now I understand what he was talking about. That he's like, yeah, just what is going on. The current counterculture, getting married, having kids, being healthy and strong. That's why it's the surreal age. Well, I have some of those. I'm not like super physically healthy and strong. Just because I eat too damn much. But other than that, so long as the robot dogs don't tear me apart. Ugh. I mean, robot dogs, like, do you think there'll be robot rats? Of course there's going to be robot rats because okay, so think about this. The rats are always the ones being experimented on. The rats are going to take over. Do you think that'd be based, like, if the robot rats took over because they're getting all the first wave of the experiments? It would be like Secret of Nim, dude. Like, I kind of want that to happen, like, because I know that the rats would think of me as an ally. What do you guys think? This is why I need to do more live streams, because no one else is gonna say it. No one else is gonna come out and say what we all want to happen, which is the Secret of Nim uprising of the cyborg rats. And yeah. I don't know. Like, maybe sometimes I feel like we're too in. Did you know there was actually a sequel to Secret of Nim? It was horrible. It was just really, really horrible. It was a bad film. Um, the best fictional rat, I'm sorry, I might have to go with Remy. I might have to go with Remy. He's a very talented boy. Um, but yeah, I was saying, sometimes I feel like maybe I'm in a little bit of a thought bubble. Like, is it actually that countercultural to get married and have children? Because I still feel like the normies are ultimately still doing that. Like, for example, if you went into like a kind of inner city, just random, are they're still going to be reproducing, right? Like, um, are we, oh, no, Templeton, you're right. Templeton is the best. I completely forgot about Templeton. He is the best. He's the most literate, and that's really lacking in this country right now, okay? So yeah, Templeton, I take it back. Templeton is the best. He's better than Remy. But Remy is cool. And he looks just like my rat Cosmo. So, I don't know. Do you guys really think that it's that countercultural to get married and have kids? Because I feel like still most people are still doing that. And like, if we went down the rabbit hole with those people, they would be like, what are you talking about? That's normal. Like, I don't know. I think, I actually really don't know because I have no fucking idea what's going on out there. Besides just, all I know is that I just say, what I've been saying to myself for years and then putting it out there and seeing what's mirrored back to me. So that might be biased. And I never interact with the public. Besides people that are like, think I'm a micro celebrity. So I have to check my ego when there's like 20 people, half of them are anonymous, and they're like, thank you, Laura. Quite a fan club. But I don't know. I mean, I do think it still is countercultural, but I mean, if we think about it, like, it's wealthier people. I thought I saw something that wealthier people are still having children, but poorer people aren't. And I kind of feel like it would be the opposite because, like, the wealthy, like, that's considered, it basically what it is, it's considered a luxury to have a child. And a lot of people, well, I guess what I'm thinking is, like, is it the middle class that aren't? Because I think it's the middle class that aren't, but I think the poorer class are still doing it. The working class are still doing it because they're just doing what's normal, right? Or they don't have as many boundaries around it, maybe. But it's the middle class that are suffering. And most people are in the middle class. And then the wealthy class, it's a luxury, so they are able to do it because they can afford it. I don't know how the fuck. See, the thing is, like, I'm a low income freelance artist and writer with complex PTSD. So I don't know a lot about like the average income of people my age, or like how much it takes to raise a kid. So again, like, I think I could pull it off, but like if I did it alone, I don't know. Like, I get it. Like, I want to have a kid, and for many reasons, mostly because there's no like available sperm, eligible sperm, right? Like, that isn't happening. But then it's like, let's say I had the base husband and we wanted to have a kid, what would be the financial situation of that? I mean, I would like to think that anyone that I would end up being with would value this so much as well, that we would prioritize that and we would find a way to do it. And then they make a little more money than me as like an artist, But people keep saying I need to marry like a plumber, an engineer, or whatever. I'm just like, they can do math, but I just don't want them to enjoy it too much. Because, like, to me, that's very alienating. Because if you're a math enjoyer, I don't know if I can vibe with you that much. Um, but enough math enjoyment to like make enough money to have a kid. Poorer people are having more and more in non-Western countries. Yeah, and that's the thing that I feel it's just very interesting. Um, but in the West, are the poor people or the poor class still, are their birth rates stable? Um, the working class are busy with kids. I guess the truth is, you guys, like, I just don't spend time around my peers unless they have, like, medical trauma. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, I don't know what, I don't know what young people do. But, like, I see, like, people from high school, like, the couple people that I tolerate to follow on Instagram from high school, I guess they're, like, I mean, I guess they're waiting, like, they're delaying, having kids. But they're still, like one of my good friends from elementary school, um, just like moved in, and she's my age, right? So she just moved in with her boyfriend. So it's like they're delaying. I mean, she's like 27 now. So it's like, I mean, I guess that's the normie way. You delay it a little, but you're still ultimately getting knocked up in your fertility window. I don't know. Um, Welders and woodworkers. Yeah, now that would be good because I've thought like, okay, who, what would be an industry that makes a lot of money but is also like down to earth and whatever, flexible. But yeah, like a woodworker, um like a type of crafts person, a craftsman, because I be honest, I just can't like I'm not really a nerd, you know? Like, yeah, I spend a lot of time online and I'm definitely very autistic about psychology, but the other like nerdy stuff, I'm just not really into it. I don't give a shit about anime. I don't like coding. I don't like video games, like, or like Marvel or whatever, or math. So it's like, those types, I don't know. I've never really been attracted to those types. So, yeah, probably someone who works with their hands, I guess. Which is the opposite of what I do. I have very limp wrists. Um, as a digital artist and all that. But, yeah, I don't see why. I don't know. Where the fuck do you even meet, like, a welder? I don't know. Um, or, man, I have no idea. I don't know because I wouldn't be asking these questions if I knew anything. But, I am trying to be open to, like, the more nerdy guys, or I'm trying to be open-minded. But I generally just don't really care for anyone. So, um, people who are happy to call themselves nerds are not nerds. I don't know if that's true because if you look at an autistic person, they are nerds and they call themselves nerds. Um, well, okay, but that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to like a working class pub. Like, I hate going out to bars. Because again, so this is what I'm saying. It's difficult because as a very academically minded person, you'd think that I would then, want to, like, there has to be a level of intellectual stimulation. So but the academic types, like, I don't trust, this is what I'm saying. You guys know I don't fucking trust any type of man. Like, I don't trust any type. I don't trust the academics. I don't trust the nerds. I don't trust the working class. I don't trust any of them. So therefore, I'm open-minded because I really don't trust any of them. Um, but but yeah. So I don't know. Um, if I have to have a baby by myself, I'll do it. Um, and I will say, like, there are a lot of resources for mothers, for single mothers especially. And again, it's not an ideal situation, but I think financially, like, there's a certain level of being poor. Country club bar. Well, but don't you have to like pay to get in there? And I'm so cheap, I don't want to pay. Yeah, so but that is funny. Um, I mean, meet him at a gender conference. Like the one straight guy there. Um, you know. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, when you're so poor that you qualify for a lot of resources, that's the niche that I'm. That's the niche that I'm in right now. So, but if I do get to a level of being like moderately poor, then as a single mom, I don't really know. Um, that's why again, like I want to move to somewhere that, and once I kind of settle down in New Mexico, I want to try to get involved, obviously locally, and get involved with, just homeschooling, because if I am a single mom, or even if I'm not, I want to connect and have that community, without getting into a cult, ideally. Because I am ultimately an introvert. So I still don't think I'd be hanging out with them all the time, like the homeschooling coalition or whatever, but, that's how I could have more support. Um, if I had to be a single parent. Um, but for now, as I often lament, and you guys know, for now it's just cats and medical malpractice politics. So, I don't know. But that's what it always comes back to. Um, so, I don't know. Um, I really don't know. I've just been trying to do as much creative stuff as I can and heal my own self, because if I have to be like miserably alone, I might as well try to come to peace with it. You know what I mean? Um, so, um, I think, um, how long has this been now? Like 2 hours? I think that's pretty good. I think this was a good conversation. I was worried that it would ramble and I wouldn't have anything to say, but luckily I had some things to say. So I hope this holds up. I'll do more live streams that are like more planned and structured, so people have notice of them in the future. But it's my first live stream. It's pretty deep, so I'm glad for that. Thanks everybody for coming. If you want to share this link around, I appreciate it. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel now that I've got monetization on it, and obviously spread D-trans awareness, because a lot of people are searching for that kind of stuff on YouTube. So it helps me out. Subscribe to the channel, and I think I'm gonna peace out. Check on the puppy. Maybe order more food to fill the void. I guess. But yeah, thanks guys. Stay funky, everybody.